Hi everyone, I'm Danny Stewart, Music Director of the San Francisco Symphony Youth Orchestra, and I'm so happy to get the chance to give you a behind-the-scenes tour into how we were able to make this extra special music video for our remotely recorded performance of Mason Bates' Mothership. So our planned performance of the piece, which would have featured Mason, was only 3 days away when the lockdown started in March. But as we already had the piece ready to go, I thought to make a remote recording of the piece to celebrate their hard work and also commemorate the moment that we were all in together. I knew I could handle the musical side of the project in terms of editing and producing it, but was also determined to find a visual director for the project to help realize my vision for an innovative, non-zoom looking type of visual accompaniment. So I began by making a click track, which would be tailored to our SFSYO interpretation for reference. So here's the first page of the score. I took a picture of it. Here's the fifth measure, and you see a fermato, which means holding the note for an indeterminate length of time. So we were playing it for about 6 beats worth of tempo, and the tempo is 1, 2, 3, 4. So we decided that was going to be 6, for example, and here 1, 2, and 3, these purple sticky notes refer to samples from the Mothership sampler that Mason Bates made, and this represents the cues that Mason plays himself when he's featured in the piece, or whoever is playing the electronica hits these cues. Then I made a video of myself conducting the piece over that click track we just created, while also cueing Mason's digital samples, which we just went over. And this was all in order to give our musicians as much context as possible as they were recording this remotely and by themselves. So here again is the third measure. Fermata measure. Second cue. And now letter A. So you get the idea there. So then we sent this reference video to our youth orchestra musicians, who then recorded themselves performing their individual parts. You can see here videos that they sent in. So then I separated the audio from each of these 80 videos and edited them in Logic. And you can see I stacked them up here, and this was a really very detailed, painstaking process of making sure that everyone was lined up, even to which side of the beat are you leaning in which section. So it's very specific and tailored to, the interpretation of the agogics that we had established during our rehearsal period. Next, I edited all of the videos in iMovie. You can see here Mason's video, and I did that for all of the 80 videos, and followed by a second round of another set of 80 videos in which we requested and incorporated new choreographed elements. The most important thing with this next round is just to have fun and share our joy and our optimism with everyone. So here's the thing. You all sent in great videos already with the music. So that's great. Phase 1 is done. Music is done. This next video is going to be visually representing the rhythm and the groove as strongly as possible, and really bright, shiny, enthusiastic eyes. That's it. Then I created a MIDI map of all 82 videos, and you can think of this kind of like a musical storyboard that shows exactly when each instrument shows up where. To do this, we had this list here, and each person is assigned a note on the keyboard. And here you can see that in Logic again as a MIDI map, and you have all of the instrumental families represented by a note on the keyboard. And the idea of this was to help coordinate whatever camera shots were going to be featured at what point in the piece. So then we were incredibly fortunate to get to bring on board Brandon Epperson as our visual director. Now, Brandon is an old friend from our Indiana University School of Music days. Well, he's now a leading visual producer who collaborates regularly with such artists as Paul McCartney, Madonna, Kanye West, and leads huge shows for MTV, ABC, Cirque du Soleil, and many more. So we've been working very hard behind the scenes all summer long in between the gaps in Brandon's schedule, which was very busy, but he was extremely generous with his time and passion. And in his words, it was a very quirky puzzle finding out how to do the entire 9 minutes of the video as one continuous long camera shot. It was an extremely challenging but very fun and rewarding process, because once we were able to collect the final essential musician videos, including the 3 improvised solos from amongst our orchestra, Brandon was able to construct a full pass through his software, which was Touch Designer for the most part, and he was triggering positions to the MIDI notes that we synced up, which referred to those specific members of the orchestra at specific moments of the piece. So, our first attempt was to treat the MIDI map polyphonically, which is to say we wanted to have as many people in each shot as were really being represented in the score. So you would have maybe 7 musicians at this section, and then the next time it might be 2, and then we had a 15. So you have this kind of density of the people we wanted to feature. That's what I made here. So then we started playing with the shapes of the arrays and edge trace effects. And the array, for example, here is a sphere that he's working at, and you can see the numbered videos here. Each of the numbers represents a musician, and they're iterated many, many times over. Well, here is a demonstration where you see the sphere turn into a cube. And this type of segue, like that, is very specifically mapped out, but it's very complex, and it carries a huge CPU load on the processors, so it's not only pushing the limits of the software, but also the hardware. Then the edge tracing effects look something like this, where you have a kind of black and white sketch around the figure. Another way that we were able to achieve transparency and show more musicians more of the time. So from there, we went on to try mixing a few different types of automation playback in combination with real-time methods of changing perspective of the visual. Towards the end, we decided to take it back closer to an art space and less of a traditional edit. So we had more big sweeping moves through the entire group mixed in. And by letting go of this MIDI mapped focus to a certain extent, it allowed us to incorporate more shape and motion and showing more people more of the time based on the structures that we set in motion. So Brandon then did a few additional passes from different perspectives and mixed those live as layers. And voila! So I hope you've enjoyed learning more about the process behind our virtual performance. And I want to congratulate and thank our amazing student musicians of the San Francisco Symphony Youth Orchestra. Here is to you, class of 2020.